This is the most radical left-wing government probably Australia's had since Gough Whitlam. Albanese is a fraud. He's lied before the election. He's surrounded by a bunch of clowns, but they are hard leftists. The entire agenda is out, as James said, to delegitimise Australia. Talking about superannuation. Now, there you go. You've got a deal between the government of Australia and the people that goes back. My father actually was the public servant who, with Keating, brought superannuation into Australia. So I know what I'm talking about. The deal was very, very clear. You will have tax-free the savings you put aside now. That's it. That's the deal. There's nothing more to it. And now they are treating that money, your money. They're taking it for themselves and pretending that it's some gift from the government, Rita.
They are, and you know what? They can't help themselves. They look at this trillions of money and they look at the hundreds of billions in these self-managed funds and they get ideas. They can't help themselves. This is in their DNA. This is who they are. And I don't think we should be surprised. I don't know if you can say Albanese is a fraud. He has been in Labor's socialist left faction for decades. This is who he is.
Yes,
we know
but
what
they
he
fraudulently
stands for.
lied before the election and said that they would not be touching super, James.
Well, Rowan, what they did was the lesson that they took away from the 2019 election was to simply don't talk about your plans for retirement savings. You know, remember, it was franking credits and retirement savings that got Bill Shorten into all sorts of trouble. And Chris Bowen said, well, if you don't like it, don't vote for us. And guess what? We didn't. And then, you know, Albanese comes along. He's taken the message. You act like this sort of, you know, very safe, middle of the road, you know, kind of nebbishy person who's not going to be a danger at all. Well, you know, we reported on this show, I reported a lot in the paper, all of the links he had to the socialist stuff going back 30 years. And everyone's like, oh, no, come on, that's ridiculous. You know, look at him. He's a perfectly moderate person. He went to the Daily Telegraph and said, I'm not woke.
Yes.
Well, how about that? Now, fast forward to today. You know, we had Chalmers a couple of weeks ago who started to set out the tent poles for this. And now, this is really important. This is really important. Do not let Labor get away with saying, no. This is just about people with millions in their super. As we reported on Friday, Stephen Jones, the assistant treasurer who's walking point on this, he said that, you know, the super, it's honey for the hive. And he talked about this at an SMSF conference. The theme was bees, so he was trying to go with that theme. But the point was a broader one. It revealed the broader truth of their agenda, which is that they're out of their money and they're coming for yours to direct in ways they want, for affordable housing, for their own infrastructure projects, for their own feather bedding. That's what they want. And they don't want you to have a choice where you put your money for retirement.
But the key thing is they are breaking the deal. The deal was made between the Australian government and the taxpayers going back to the 70s. And that deal was very, very specific and very, very clear. And that was a handshake deal, and that is what the Australian people have stuck to. This government, and unfortunately it began under Morrison and Turnbull, which was the great betrayal, but it is not their money. It's not a honeypot sitting there. It is your money, and they are now trying to twist it and say, oh, well, this is costing us to let you have the tax-free thresholds that we allowed you, which we gave you originally. So it is a lie. Thank goodness for John Howard coming out strongly and saying this is theft, which is what it is. Peter Dutton, Dominic Perrottet, get out there. This is how you defeat Labor. They are thieves coming after hardworking Australians' money. Rita.
Well, this is one area where the coalition is comfortable fighting. So there is that, at least, that they are mounting a real opposition to these plans, because we have seen them run dead on so many crucial issues, ideological issues, where they just seem to be too frightened to take a firm position against the leftist Labor line. But here, they do feel like they're on secure ground, and we can see with a little bit of pressure how badly the Albanese government trailed, because they are not used to that. They have had the longest honeymoon.
Exactly.
The media loves them, so there's not much scrutiny coming from the bulk of the media, and yet the opposition has just had this softly approach, and now they're fighting. And hopefully they can see that when you actually give people an opposition, when you give people a clear choice between two parties, then you hold the government accountable. It has been really disappointing, I think, so far to see the Dutton opposition not be as ferocious and fearless as
Well,
we
we've
would
been
hope
waiting
that
for
would
the
be.
mongrel. We need the mongrel here because this is people's money. This is their life savings. This is people who have been forced to put that money to one side. They could have used that money to build their own businesses, their small businesses. They could have used that money to give their kids a better life. They could have used that money to take their kids to a better school or more holidays, or just to live a better life for themselves or their parents. And instead, the government insisted that money be put to one side, half of it with these idiot super funds, with these union-backed super funds. It's a rort through and through. It is not what the superannuation strategy was meant to be. It is theft, and it is grand theft that they're coming for now, James.
Well, yes, and and this whole idea too, when they keep talking about these tax concessions are costing the government money. No,
It's not their money.
It's not their money, and also people planned. People went and planned with financial planners, with their accountants, and said, I need this money and I'm following the rules. And then suddenly they're going to yank the rug out from underneath them. And there's another sinister point about this, Rowan and Rita. They talk about, they want to limit what you're doing there just for what they call a dignified retirement. But guess what? Yeah. Labor is deciding what a dignified retirement is.
And worse, the hypocrisy of what Albanese and others will be on, and public servants and union leaders and all the rest. With your money, the hypocrisy is staggering. Australians have to rise up and say, no, this must stop. This government must be defeated. We want to hear Dutton, we want to hear Perrottet, we want to hear John Howard, we want to hear Tony Abbott, all out there. You've got to tear this government down now. Rita.
Well, you're talking about policies that are costing the taxpayers or the government a lot of money. Like you mentioned, Rowan, I can tell you the benefit scheme, the very generous benefit scheme Anthony Albanese and most of his comrades are on, that's costing us a pretty penny. But there won't be any moves to change that. There won't be any moves to change the fact that he's going to be retiring with, around $400,000 per annum? No, that's fine. So, yeah, the hypocrisy is keen, and their idea of what's a dignified retirement, I'm guessing doesn't include jumping on a jet and maybe having an overseas trip, because think about your carbon footprint there, and I'm sure it doesn't include perhaps helping your kids with sending the grandchildren to private school, all the other things that you may have sacrificed and worked hard and taken risks to be in a position to do in your retirement. All of that's out the window. It's Labor's view of what's good enough for you.
And there's a name for that, and that name is socialism and communism, where the government determines how you should live your lives. We've got to get this government out of our lives. It is so dangerous, as Rita says, on things like climate change, carbon footprints, all of that stuff, carbon credits, all of that stuff is coming down the track because this is a socialist, hard left government. Make no mistake about it. And we are suffering and will suffer, and your kids will suffer.